we've just been adding more and more and more data to the hotel ecosystem, where you have so much data, you don't really necessarily know what to do with it.
When did you realize that AI should not just calculate better, but actually help people think better?
We want to be able to decipher a lot of this information ourselves and not just, hey, trust the system. We're talking about thousands of dollars, thousands of euros in revenue that could be lost just because you're priced a little bit too high.
Let me start with a simple situation. It's Monday morning, you open your laptop, and you already know you won't have the time to look at everything. Pickup, pace, comset, forecast, events, market data. We've never had so much data, but we also have so many more places to analyze and check and verify. This is where AI is really important to go through all of the data and summarize it into usable information, not just adding more of it. So, today I want to explore a different question. What if innovation in revenue management was not about adding more data, but about helping us understand where to look and why? That's exactly what today's conversation is about. Welcome to 10 Minute Hotel, the podcast dedicated to the future of hospitality and hotel innovation. This episode is a special one. It's the first English language episode on the channel, and it marks the beginning of a more international conversation about hospitality innovation. Today, I'm joined by Sam from Logic. By the way, Sam, is it Log IQ or Logic?
That's a really funny question, Tony. It's one I get a lot, but it's one I really like. So our name, it's one of those kind of clever tech names. I can't take credit for it, but I do really love it. Really merging the IQ, the intelligence that you need with the lodging institutions that we work with, whether it be a hotel, a resort, an inn, what have you. So really taking those two things and smashing it together. But it is Logic. I never get offended by Log IQ though.
All right, good. Sam, welcome. Before we dive in, could you briefly introduce yourself and your role?
Yeah. So as you've introduced, my name is Sam. I lead operations and customer success here at Logic. And that means a whole host of things. But really what it means is I have the pulse on the customer themselves. Now, just a little bit about my background. Like many people at Logic, really most of our team really, I have a background in hospitality itself. So straight out of college, I first worked for Intercontinental Hotel Group, Marriott, and then I wanted to get away from the big brands for a little bit. So I did go into more strategic corporate consulting. I learned a lot about the big picture there, but where I really met my mentors and what really brought me to Logic was when I did go to grad school at NYU. That's where I met Steve Rubin, who's the CEO of a hospitality company up in Boston. Kerry Mack, one of the leaders of Highgate, KJ, many other of the industry leaders here that still have really inspired me and driven my career and driven me for more strategic insight like I see today.
All right, good. Thank you very much. So let's talk about the reality on the ground. Today, revenue managers don't suffer from a lack of tools. They suffer from too many signals. From your perspective, what is actually broken in the way data is used in revenue management today?
Yeah, I wouldn't say anything is necessarily broken, but we do have a very complicated environment. So for the last 10 plus years, maybe even 2 decades, we've just been adding more and more and more data to the hotel ecosystem. And all that data is very usable. There's a reason why hoteliers at one point in time necessarily wanted to use that data to inspire strategy, to inspire analysis. But what we do end up with when we have this much data is the old classic analysis paralysis, where you have so much data, you don't really necessarily know what to do with it and how to make that a usable information for your property. So that's part of where we find ourselves in today. We have all of this data. You have your hotel data, you have your competitive data, you have market data, you have flight data, train data, all sorts of branding data, reviews, all sorts of things that I can't even think of off the top of my head right now that are inspiring you to make decisions at your hotel. And the big question is, how do I utilize that efficiently without spending all of this time really just heads down and report and not really making any actionable decisions for my property?
All right. RMS have used AI for a long time, pricing, forecasting, optimization. But something clearly shifted recently with generative AI. When did you realize that AI should not just calculate better, but actually help people think better?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Tony. So part of Logic, what really launched us as a company was using traditional AI to predict the best pricing recommendation for any room type for any hotel, restrictions, of course, forecasting, market forecasting, and other things. And that's really what birthed our company. But as I've been talking to a lot of the revenue managers, the owners, asset managers, all sorts of people in the industry, we really come to the question of, we love that you're predicting this information, but we want to know more. We want to know why. We want to be able to decipher a lot of this information ourselves and not just, hey, trust the system, which they do trust the system, but they want to have more that they can pull out of the system and really present at a revenue meeting. This is why we are making this strategic action. This is so part of what we're really trying to do today is not just look at the data is important, but explain to the user how that data can help their property and how they should be using that data to help their property.
Okay, good. Let me challenge you on one point.
Yeah.
A revenue manager does not need hundreds of data points every morning. I mean, it needs what? 3 priorities he cannot afford to miss for that day, right?
Yeah. So at the basic level, a hotelier, a revenue manager, is going to want to look at least pace, pickup, and then some sort of competitive information. For a lot of hotels, that's the classic comp set competitive information. I do tend to really lean more towards the market information, but it really depends on your hotel. Some hotels are a lot more susceptible to competitive pressure and they need to keep more of a pulse on the comp set. So I guess I would say that those 3 overarching are the core 3, but there's really so much data that's just even involved in those 3 that it's hard to get your head around all of that and really still make the strategic decisions you need for your hotels. So we are going more in depth in especially those 3, but there's all sorts of other data in the ecosystem that we can also really pull out and drill into what is actually important, what can move the waves of your hotel and really strategically move you forward. So is that producing better on particular channels? Is that dedicating more towards promotions and marketing? Or are you pricing incorrectly for certain dates, just overall? There's all sorts of other tools all sorts of information that we can pull from this data. But just looking at the data itself, yeah, it does drill down to those 3 points, but there's so much wealth of information in there that hoteliers just aren't quite getting out of it at the current point in time.
All right, okay. Well, up to now, we've talked about ideas, philosophy, and pain points, and data, tons of data. But could you actually do a demo of the AI wizard? I mean, in a way that it would be concrete and easy to use in daily life. Would you mind sharing your screen?
I'd love to, Tony. Thank you for the opportunity.
Amazing.
All right. You can see my screen there, Tony, right?
Yeah, I can see it. All right. Okay, so this is getting funny. Okay, let's say I don't know, I'm a revenue manager and I open the wizard on a Monday morning, okay? We just finished the weekend, it's Monday morning. What should I understand in 30 seconds?
So the first thing you're going to want to do is go into the Daily Glimpse, which is our AI reporting. What we do is we're just digesting your basic BI information, a lot of what we just talked about on the 3 core points, so that you can understand how your property finished yesterday. You might already have an idea about that, but more importantly, what you should be focused on for the next 2 weeks or the next month or further out in the outlook.
Wow.
Now, we're not just giving you the basic information, but we're also pulling out some of the core things that are occurring on any particular period that you should have strategic focus on, some of the best top performing time periods, the worst performing time periods, and some things that you should really have some strategic insight over. So this isn't going to give you everything that's necessarily going on in your hotel, but it does from a very high level, just deliver you straight the details that you need to make those decisions right off the bat at the beginning of the day.
All right, but okay, I love it. But who would be the main user of this feature? Is it the general manager, the revenue manager, maybe the owner?
So we do have a pretty grand scope of who would utilize this report. I really went into our development of this thinking that it was generally going to be used by the on-property revenue manager. It also does make it so that if you are managing multiple properties at the same time, you can have deeper insight or deeper overview of all of your properties without having to dig into loads and loads of reporting. At the same time, through my conversations with a lot of the various different decision makers at hotels, I found that it actually has a lot of utility for other people at the property and a lot of the executive and ownership teams too that I thought would maybe be a little bit less interested in it. So while it is really originally targeted towards those core revenue folk, I've even seen the directors of sales and marketing like to just have this information at the top of their head. The GM likes to just know what's kind of going on at their property, and it does have a lot of extra utility as well.
Okay, makes sense. And okay, let's simulate another real situation. Okay, all right. There is an owner, and he asks, "Why are we lowering rates on these dates?" How does Logic AI Wizard help answer that question without, opening 5 reports?
Yeah, that's a great question, Tony. So that really brings us to our opportunity radar section of AI Wizard here, which really lets you detail into the top dates that we are seeing revenue, opportunities, risks, or dates that you might otherwise need to monitor just because there's a lot going on over that particular date, whether it be a major event or other types of really demand in the market. So if you did want to see, for example, some of the risk dates, we could just jump in here and you'll notice that we will also grade them by how significant we think that risk is. I'm just going to jump into this Wednesday because I see a critical severity there. So let's take a little look there. And we'll detail even more into why exactly we are recommending making a decision for that particular date. So here we'll just give you a simple breakdown in terms of the math. So right now, as you're currently priced, this is how our forecast is predicting that you will end out there on any particular date. With the new optimized change that we're suggesting here, which is a $34 rate reduction, we do expect to see a significant increase in occupancy. So we're looking at a 12.4% occupancy increase. We will take a little bit of hit on the ADR, but we will overall make some revenue. Now, this isn't maybe the top example because in this case, we're only making an extra $302 in revenue. But in lots of cases, we're talking about thousands of dollars, thousands of euros in revenue that could be lost just because you're priced a little bit too high on a particular date. Now, we're also going to give you some additional information about this, some other contributing factors that we're seeing. Right now, this property has very low occupancy. Their rate is significantly or fairly high above their competitive set, and their RevPAR index is low there. So those are some of the contributing factors there. And we do think that making some of these strategic changes would give you better results in the long run. Now, you don't need to look into all of this detail if you don't want to. We have very quick and easy ways. Now, if you do want to just look at it at a higher level, which is how I would suspect maybe a GM or an asset manager or someone who is having a less direct revenue impact on the property may do, you can also look at it in this simple calendar view where you can hover over any particular date and get some detailed information on that particular date. So for this Monday, January 26th, we're seeing weak market occupancy, competitive rates that are very low. And so we're forecasting the hotel very low at this current rate. So this is a date that does need attention with very low demand. We also do have quick glimpses here at your demand distribution. So if you want to just look overall at how the demand distribution is impacting your property over the next 30 days, 90 days, 180 days, whatever you'd like, you can just jump into here and get a quick high level overview. So these are some of the tools that maybe someone who's not directly on property may be very interested in. And another great part of this is you can do all of this without directly connecting to a CRS or channel manager. So even if you do not want to go that deep in depth in terms of the integrations of your tech stack, we can deliver all of this information pretty much with your just PMS data.
Wow. Okay. I love these features. And I just would like to come back on one thing on the calendar you show me, because 15 years ago, I said 15, I think it's almost 20 years ago, but it was a very, very long time ago. I remember, I built a heat map of the dates with the most demand based, it was on a hotel's booking engine. I assume that today, okay, this is usual in all revenue management solutions. So how is this wizard different? How is your calendar different?
Our calendar is different because it is really delivering some of the core native AI that we had in Logic. So that's the hotel forecasting, the hotel pricing, the market forecasting, the demand distribution forecasting there with our native AI. And it's combining it here with the generative AI to produce even more powerful results. So we do have all this experience really looking at this data. Now we're delivering more useful data points so the decision makers know exactly why they should move on any particular date. Now, I'm also a little biased. I think our interface is a little sleeker than some of the other guys out there. But all in all, this is just a very interactive, intuitive, easy to use interface that also has the power of our long-term native AI and this really new generation generative AI all combined into one powerful force.
Wow. Well, from what you are showing me, I feel like what is the most impressive here is not the technology itself. It's what it removes. I mean, spreadsheets, constant interruption, endless justifications, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And how does this really impact the daily life of a revenue manager?
So I think it makes the daily life of a revenue manager much easier. So instead of spending all of that time juggling reports, not even just juggling them, compiling them, spending 2 hours every morning, pulling all the information, putting it in the report for your superior, who will then tweak it and send it on. All of that time is really removed. It also gives them a great utility here just to be able to ask a lot of the questions that they may get asked on a whim. Why are our Tuesdays down compared to Tuesdays last year? You can really look that up here with the click of a button, rather than have to spend 2 hours, maybe, say you're a really, really seasoned revenue manager, maybe half an hour, but you get that half an hour back to really focus on your strategy, whether that be how are your channels performing and how should you be distributing better, whether that be more marketing oriented. It gives you that time to really strategize on your property rather than just compiling reports and analyzing data. So you are still analyzing data. It just makes that analysis a lot more efficient.
Well, I just want to come back on one point that you mentioned. You say that you can ask the AI a specific question. And you mentioned many times that now you've evolved to generative AI. Can you actually show me where you can, the place where you can ask him something? Ask it
Yeah, of
something?
course. So this is our Ask the Wizard feature, and it's really one of the cooler parts of the platform itself. A lot of people have familiarity nowadays with ChatGPT or Gemini or one of the other ones, and we're taking that and really delivering your hotel data, and we're really delivering your hotel data into the ecosystem and making it so that you can really utilize core revenue management strategy with the wizard itself. So you can ask it a basic question, like the Tuesday question I just mentioned. So how are my Tuesdays performing compared to last year? But you can also ask it some strategic questions. So let's say that you want to know what you should do for your beginning of March when you're not performing maybe at the best. So you could just go in here and say, can you give me some daily strategies for the first week of March where we're under.
Wow.
And just like that, the system will take a minute here to review all of the data. And then after we give it some time, it will shoot back some results that will give us exactly what we just asked for. So it's going to give us a little bit of information. It'll probably give us some pacing information on how we're doing compared to last year and how we're performing overall. But then it's going to give us some daily strategies on how we can help these critical dates. As soon as it loads, you're able to just review the response that it gives you. So like I mentioned, it does give you a little bit of an overview of how you're performing overall. It'll highlight some of the critical issues that we're seeing over those dates, even on a daily basis here. And then it will give you some specific actions you can take. So for the first here, it is giving you an overall rate recommendation. So dropping the rate to meet your comp set. But it's also giving you some priority promotions that you could run and a general goal for your revenue team to really try to hit. So the strategy that it will give you really depends on the day and the weaknesses that it's seeing on that particular date, given the question that we prompted it with. But you will see different types of recommendations here. So here, this one is a little bit more of a channel related recommendation, where this is more of a package/marketing recommendation. And then we do have some more overall rate recommendation actions here. And you will have that for all of these dates that we asked it about.
Okay, wow. Okay, Sam, I'm truly sorry, but after seeing that, we cannot avoid this next question. I mean, some people watching are probably already thinking, this looks powerful. Maybe too powerful? Is AI going to replace me? Am I going to be let go soon?
So my view on AI, and I understand that there's lots of concerns out there, and it doesn't help from some of the Terminator movies and all the other Hollywood movies either. But AI isn't here to replace us. The AI, especially Logic Wizard here, is meant to help us. So here we are reducing the more monotonous tasks the revenue manager would have to do on a daily basis. And some of the more stressful tasks that they would have to do on a daily basis that they probably don't really want to do, like putting together those reports, like just staring through reams and reams of spreadsheets, to really focus on the strategy and what they can do to improve the position of their property. So I definitely understand the concern there, but the goal is really to remove some of their pain points, give them more leverage and more insight into their own data, which will give them more to show their bosses, more to show the industry in how they're performing. And also it can help people work more at scale. So it does help in, for example, looking over multiple properties if you are one of those people that does have to look over multiple properties at the same time. Now, I also say that I have seen, like I was talking about earlier, very different parts of the hotel all get different uses out of this ecosystem. So there might be something that the director of sales and marketing gets out of this that the director of revenue management doesn't get, but they get something slightly different. And then the GM even has some things that they can get out of here. Ownership does, asset managers do too. What I think it does is help to better streamline communication. You're all looking off of similar data points, and you almost have the wizard here as an independent third-party arbitrator when you're trying to make decisions. If there may be disagreement between the GM and the revenue manager, that gives the revenue manager really the leverage to be like, okay, I understand what you're saying about raising rates on this date, but logic and the market data is showing that the market data and our positioning and our comp set data it's really going to hurt our property if we make that decision. So while it does present a threat in how we do see it portrayed sometimes, really what it is here to do is to make our lives a lot more easy. And I do think that there's a lot of good communication and team activities that can occur by utilizing this data as a group together.
All right. Sam, thank you very much for this conversation and for actually showing, not just explaining. If some hotelier would want to try your AI wizard, what would be the next step? How they would contact you or contact Logic?
Yeah, so you can of course reach us via our website. So thank you for that prompt, Tony. Almost forgot the good part.
My
You can
pleasure.
also always reach out to me at sam@logic.com. I try to respond to anyone who does. Our sales team also can be reached at sales@logic.com, and I'm sure that they would love to do a demo for anyone who would just like to take a little deeper look into the Ask the Wizard, the Opportunity Radar, or the Daily Glimpse.
All right. Sounds perfect. So I'm going to summarize this episode in one sentence. The future of revenue management is not about more data. It's about less noise and better focus. This was 10 Minute Hotel, the podcast. See you very soon.